Rematch is going to be one of the greatest esports that will come out in 2025. Rematch just wrapped up its last beta here a couple of days ago, and players are already itching to get back into the pitch and just to continue to show off what they got. Now, what makes Rematch so different from any other sports game? And what is going to make it one of the best esports that will come out in 2025? Well, let's go ahead and let's talk about it. The first thing that we're going to be talking about is the viewer experience. Rematch as a game is going to be really simple for people to get into. At its most basic concept, it is soccer in a box that does not stop. You have, rather than having your boundaries and out of bounds you have to worry about, the players are just going to be locked into a box, and since there are no penalties in soccer, the game just doesn't end. The only time that the clock will stop is when one team scores. So, that will keep spectators glued to their seats while waiting for the next major game-changing moment to happen. The next big thing that is going to be setting Rematch apart is its game length. I'll admit it, my problem with watching regular soccer is the games just are way too long. You have two 45-minute halves in soccer, and those can even take longer if you have more penalties and different things like that that will be adding additional time to the game clock. In Rematch, you don't have that. You have either a 6-minute game or the first team to get a lead by 4 goals. So if they're 4-0, that's a mercy rule, 5-1, a mercy rule, etc., etc. But in Rematch, super short matches. What that means is that you don't have moments where you're just waiting for something to happen. I've watched a few soccer games where you've gone 85 minutes without a single team scoring a goal. And while for some people that might keep them on the edge of their seats, for me, I just got bored. But as a spectator for Rematch, I find myself being consistently more glued to my seat and waiting for a team to score because the time continues to dwindle and they don't have periods of downtime where they're going to be able to wait for something to happen. The next thing I'm going to talk about in terms of the experience for Rematch is the player experience. When it comes to being a player, the game, oddly enough, is super accessible. Yes, there is the $30 paywall that players are going to have to be keeping in mind if they're wanting to get into the game. However, the game itself as a concept is very simple. You're playing soccer. If you understand even the most basic concepts of soccer, you will be doing a great job and having a great start when getting into Rematch. The biggest area that you are going to be having to pay attention to when you are playing Rematch is there is a high skill ceiling, and that, to me, adds for the appeal of an esport. The core dribbling mechanics are pretty simple. You hold the left trigger or whatever the corresponding button is on a keyboard and mouse, and then that allows you to pull off dribble maneuvers. Then you have your passing and your shooting. At its basic, really easy for players to get into, dive into who have never played it before, and still kind of understand what they need to do in order to win the game. But the thing that is going to help with the player experience is even just in the limited abilities that were available during the beta, the skill ceiling was super high. There were a lot of mechanics that I didn't even know existed until I started watching some higher end Rematch players, not just in their tournaments, but in some of their highlight reels that they were creating and different content that was available. And that seeing that skill ceiling and the ability for players to go from understanding just the basics of soccer to being these crazy strikers that are going to make even some of the blue lock characters look like babies. I mean, that is just exactly what you would want to see as a player. And I think the other thing too that makes the player experience so much better is the it factor. It was talked about a lot, and I've seen it talked about a lot in a lot of various Rematch content creators, but this game has this moment, this feeling that you get that can't really be described other than just it hits and it hits just right. I'll admit it. When I first saw Rematch, I thought this was going to be just another regular run-of-the-mill soccer game and it wasn't going to be anything special. But then when I dove in, started playing, had those moments where I was syncing up with my team, the goals were flying in, the matches were intense, my blood was pumping, everything was just hitting in all the right spots. I couldn't help but lock in. Even though I knew that it was a beta match, it was casual, it wasn't in ranked, wasn't for a tournament, nothing. But I still just had this unending desire to just lock in and see how the game was going to go and try my absolute darndest to win. That is something that as a player is going to only fuel the drive to get better and better at the game. You're going to find those moments in your games where you know that you messed up and you're going to immediately start looking for different ways to improve and to continue to get better at the game, which is only going to make players want to keep playing. They're going to want to keep searching for that high of when they're able to put that play together and score that goal or win that game. all of these moments that can only be described as that it factor. It's not anything that you can really describe exactly as to what's going on, but when it hits, it feels good. And that is something that Rematch is going to absolutely thrive upon when it comes out. The next thing that I'm going to be talking about is the event experience. Even just in the limited time that there was the beta, there were so many different types of game modes. You could play 5v5, 4v4, 3v3, and there are so many different ways that you can make things happen. You had the Rematch Esports that were holding your regular 5v5 tournaments that players were constantly signing up for. We had hundreds of teams all coming together to play. And on top of that as well, you had Bestie and Slot, another community tournament organizer for a bunch of various different games. They hosted a Blue Lock themed tournament called the Egoist Cup. And that gave one of the most unique tournament experiences I have ever seen in an esport. They took the entire Blue Lock experience from season 1 and they moved it into their very own unique cup. And the fact that they were able to do that, which is something as simple as a silly soccer game, just shows the abilities of the endless possibilities for what Rematch has to offer. I absolutely love the game, and I only sunk about 20 hours into the beta, but it was something that I am so excited to continue to sink time into once the game fully comes out in June 19th. And all of that to be said, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, what's going to make Rematch super special? Like, what is the thing? How is it not just going to be like other games where you're just going to play it for a few months? It's going to get really popular for a little bit and then it will die off. And the thing that I can only continue to talk about is that it factor. It's something that I've never really been truly able to describe when looking at the game and how I play the game. The only other game that ever really gave me that feeling was Omega Strikers, and that one died out unfortunately, but there were a few things in Omega Strikers that it was missing. But when it comes to Rematch, it doesn't need so many more things. Players these days are looking for these games with high-end content, constant changes and development. Rematch, really, in my opinion, doesn't need anything crazy. It's what it is. It's a soccer game. It's meant to be together, to get your teammates together, to play a game of soccer, lock in, and just have a ton of fun. And that is what is going to make Rematch thrive over any other esport out there right now. And the other thing I do want to talk about when it comes to Rematch is when you're comparing it to games like FIFA, the thing that really makes Rematch stand out is the team play. FIFA is a very individualistic esport. I've watched some professional FIFA matches, and a lot of those are just you're controlling the different players, and it's just you locked in your moment. But when you are playing Rematch, you're locked in with a team. You have a group of friends, a group of people you maybe just met. You're locked in. You're trying your absolute hardest to win the game, and it is something that when you achieve that victory as a team, just feels amazing. So, guys, I'm planning on covering a lot of Rematch stuff. I don't know exactly what all I plan doing with this game, but this game has a ton of potential. I think this is going to be one of the best esports in 2025, and I think it has an opportunity to shine and just be this absolutely incredible game. And if you want to watch and see how I cover more of this game, make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. Follow me on all of my social media, and so that way you guys can stay up to date with any and all Rematch esports news. Thank you guys again for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.